Welcome in, everybody. It is Thursday night, another edition of the Joe Quills Show, brought to you by absolutely nobody. I'm the guy. I'm that guy, Joe Quills, and a lot to talk about here tonight, and little added stuff that I did not have planned to talk about here. Um, we do have a Masters update here. Got a lot of paper here tonight. Well, some of it didn't print double sided like I wanted on, but anyways. Um, Got some Masters updates here, including a little funny story that happened with Scotty Scheffler's group. And no, Scotty Scheffler did not get arrested today. Uh, but we'll talk a little Masters. We'll talk a little soccer, even. I'm not in, even with even with baseball and football. I'm not an X's and O's guy. I'm more gut and feel type guy. So, give you a little bit of that as well. So, um, you know, I'm not necessarily about the X's and O's. So, just let you know when you hear what I have to say, you'll be like, Joe, just shut up. But, I think some of the things I do say do make sense. And, I had one detractor a few months ago said that I give cold takes. Well, occasionally they do get hot. So, whatever. But, if he wants to be a hater, he can be a hater, whoever it was a while back. But so we'll talk a little soccer. Um, let's see, what else should we have planned? I mean, I wrote this up and I still don't know. Got a weird minor league baseball story as well. Apparently, something that hasn't been done in the major leagues since at least 1901. Um, it happened in minor league ball at High A in the High A Midwest League. Um, from what MLB could tell, it hasn't happened since at least 2005. It's probably because with the minor leagues, it's harder. The records are probably harder to find, but uh, you'll hear this and be like, "Oh my god!" And then, of course, I will tell you it was a former Phillies prospect. So, of course, that's going to happen as well. So, but a lot of stuff coming up tonight, and we're keeping an eye on the weather at in Atlanta or Cobb County or wherever the hell they are now, because they're not in Atlanta proper anymore. So I'm keeping an eye on everything with the Phillies. I think they're done for the night. I think that's going to be a suspended game. It is 1-1 in the sixth inning, or it was after six, I think. Let me just double check here. Forgive me for being quiet there. I was hearing something, and I can tell you one thing: these walls are very thin. Sound goes through them like crazy. So I didn't know if it was the people upstairs. I didn't know if it was Thunder Hooves or whoever she lives with. I didn't know if it was that. I didn't know if it was around the hall. Um, um, I also did a listen because when I'm working here, um, I sit about 10 feet to my left for my real job. And I'm sitting there, and sometimes my Google home, because I don't want to say that word because if I say it, it'll probably set off. I'll be sitting here. The device behind me doesn't go off, but the one in the bedroom does go off. So for some reason that happens from time to time. It hasn't happened lately, or if it has happened, I've been so entrenched in taking calls that I don't hear it. But sometimes that does happen, and so that's why, like, for example, iPhones have SIRI. I don't mention that word. When football season starts, you'll hear that when I mention the head coach of the world champion Eagles. Calgary Flames won tonight. Cool. I don't even know who they played tonight. Who'd they play tonight, Brandon? Or Brendan, I should say. I'm sorry about that. Um, I'm looking for something here, but I don't know what it was. Um, uh, I don't even see the Flames on the schedule tonight. Calgary lost last night. Yeah, they play tomorrow night. Okay, unless he's. Let me see something here, because like I'm really. Oh no. Okay, don't mind me. I'm just really all over the place here tonight. Um, so it looks like the Phillies game is going to get suspended. At least that's my opinion because they said it's going to be a couple hours of rain and they got heavy winds and whatever. Now, because it's a tie game, do you do everything in your power to have that game finished tonight? Now, granted, the Phillies do go back to Atlanta. They go back to Atlanta. Uh, they play there June 27th, 28th, and 29th to end the season in Atlanta, at least. Um, but now, with the way that they do the games now, and they changed this rule a few years ago, not only when you have a tie game, it's a suspended game. Not only is that the case, it's also the case when you don't get 5 innings in. They changed that a few years ago because if you remember, Marcus Stroman, who was with the Mets at the time, ripped the umpires in Major League Baseball because he warmed up for the game. He threw about 6 pitches. It started raining really hard, and they never got back on the field. So there are a couple different ways that you get a suspended game here, but it's an official game. But the game's tied at 1 after 6 innings. So um, I think they're going to do everything they can to get the game in tonight. I turned the game off because I figured I'll turn the TV off for now. I have the phone right here. I'll be looking to see if there's any updates of if the game's suspended or um, if the game's suspended or anything like that, and you know, or if the game goes back, if they start playing again. If they do, it probably will be after I end the show tonight. So we'll see what happens with all that, um, and it leads to my first story here because um, I had an unexpected news story tonight, and let me just double check here. I mean, I trust my source here because he was actually at the game tonight. Um, Let me see here. Um, and I take you to Clearwater, Florida. And I think there's a couple of reasons why Ranger Suarez and the Phillies had a rehab assignment in Clearwater tonight. And one of the reasons why is probably he's doing extended spring training right now. So that was probably part of the reason why. Also, you don't really want to do, especially in this part of the country, because it has been raw the last couple of days. And it's only going to get worse here this weekend. It's supposed to start raining any minute here in Philadelphia. It's supposed to get really heavy tomorrow. Um, so, you know, you want to have ideal conditions for somebody who's rehabbing and you want to see where they are. So, my good friend Jason Bean hosted a Jason Bean horse racing podcast, and I need to get him on Also Eligible or even on this show, even if we record it ahead of time, because I know listening to his podcast, he's the type of guy. Um, he's the type of guy that will go to bed at like 8:30, 9 o'clock as soon as his podcast, the Jason Beam Horse Racing Podcast, is uploaded during the week. So, um, if Jason does see this, hit me up. You want to come on sometime? We can shoot the shit and whatever. But you know, um, so I get a random tweet, you know, at Joe Quills, and it was two tweets here. The first tweet was, or I should say, post. He said, Ranger Suarez rehab starts sharp so far. I said, awesome. We'll be using that on my stream tonight because, I'm always looking for something to talk about. Whether you want to hear it or not, maybe, and maybe if you have some guys here who actually follow the Phillies, because, I am a Phillies fan. I'm a all Philly sports fan. If you remember from when the Eagles won the Super Bowl, I had that T-shirt on Philly City Champions. I had the, and Jason knows I'm a huge Philly sports fan. He reads. I feel bad because he reads some of the shit that I put on there, which may not be PC in some ways. Like today, I posted something which wasn't really too PC, or was it yesterday? Yeah, I said yesterday. Watching the Pirates Cards game and the 12 Pittsburgh fans in attendance here in the 13th inning have not been as excited since I found out that DNA test proved that their wives are not their sisters. And that's because they're north of West Virginia. And I joke around that the people in West Virginia, the people in Pittsburgh, just people that left West Virginia. What's the word that I use? Um, Defected. They defected from West Virginia. I joke around with that. You know, um, like yesterday, I said, um, I need to learn someday to update my QPW stats, my Quills Picks Winner stats, more than once every blue moon. Catching up about 6 weeks of stats is a pain in the ass. And like I said, Quills Picks Winners, audio podcast, I upload everything. Everything's done by me. I don't have any assistants. I kind of don't want any assistants, but Um, but I also said here, customer, do I sound on the other phone, over the phone? The tempting to say yes was an all-time high. So yeah, I went with a rare veiled work reference there. So Jason Bean then told me 3 innings, 1 hit, no run allowed. So that's a good start for Ranger Suarez. And I don't know. I admit I haven't looked at everything here because it's hard to keep up with every single detail, and I try to do as much as I can. And the one thing I will say, first of all, thanks to Jason Beam once again, and maybe I'll have him on one of my shows one time. Maybe even Also Eligible. I mean, I've had his good friend Jessica Paquette on my show. Now, granted, it's useless to watch the video because there was no sound in it because I fucked up. But just a fun conversation because I don't believe in interviews. I believe in just talking, just BSing, kind of like we would just be sitting there at the bench at Parks like we were the one day when he was covering the Pennsylvania Derby for his podcast in Twin Spires. So, but check his podcast, Jason Beam Horse Racing Podcast. His next new one will be on Monday with a recap of the races from this weekend. But that's, I mean, now granted, you got to understand that he's facing single A talent right now. Now, If the weather warms up, maybe he goes to Double A or Triple A, depending on where the teams are. That's always a possibility. So, and then you're going to have an interesting problem right now because Ranger Suarez is a starter. Um, and you got five starters right now. You got the 5-man rotation with Taiwan Walker as the 5 right now. So I don't think Taiwan Walker could adapt to the bullpen, whereas I think Ranger Suarez could, because if you remember, he was a Swiss Army knife in 2022 in the playoff run. And, he ended up being the closer for the Phillies one year just out of necessity. And he did a pretty good job as well. So, um, I think the way Ranger Suarez is, he doesn't care for the most part where he is, whether he goes to the bullpen or starts or anything like that. I think he's just like, just get me the ball. Give me the ball. I'll get you out of the inning. And um, and if he and I mean, and he may actually be in the bullpen because you have Lazard. Well, actually, you got 3 right-handers right now. I'm getting confused with out of the park baseball where they have Suarez as a starter and all that, and then you have 3 starters, 3 left-handed starters. So we try to mix them up a little bit, um, but yeah, you have all these. You have all these. I think the options for Ranger Suarez are better, even though Ranger Suarez, I believe, is in a contract year. But I think with Ranger Suarez, he wouldn't care where he pitches because he has pitched out of the bullpen in the past. Part of it was when he first came up, it's like, oh, what are we going to do with him? But he did establish himself as a starter. He was the Cy Young for the first 2 months of the year last year. Um, but anybody who's listening or watching this after the fact, if you got a comment, feel free because um, it just seems like Ranger Suarez would be a better fit for the bullpen, even though he's the better pitcher. If that makes sense, because he has pitched out of the bullpen in the past. He has pitched well out of the bullpen. He has, he did it in 22 without any problems. So maybe he's the guy. Um, like he may not even see it as a demotion. He would just see it. Hey, I'm filling a need for this team. That may be what he needs. Maybe what happens here. And there's, you're going to get paid the same amount of money whether you're starting or relieving. And I don't think he makes that much money. Matter of fact, I'm going to check his contract out right now. Suarez. Okay, so this is spottrack.com. He does become a unrestricted free agent after this year. He's getting paid $8.8 million. Last year he made $5 million. 23 he made 2.9. First 3 years he was making the league minimum. So, or the first 4 years, I should say, because I think he was back and forth there as well. So, but he is an unrestricted free agent here. So, be interesting to see what you do with him because you can put him in as a reliever. I mean, 8.8 million is a little high for a reliever, but the top relievers are probably making 15, 20 at least. But I mean, Jordan Romano, aka Corky Romano, he's making what, about 10, 11, 12 million this year from the Phillies. But I mean, it isn't. I don't think it would be. I mean, even though it does look like a demotion, where okay, well, we're going to bring you up, but we're going to use you in the bullpen. I just think the way I sense Ranger Suarez, I don't think that he's a guy who would complain about anything. He would just say, "All right, let me know when it's time to pitch." And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. But I think that he can adapt to a bullpen role and then go back to being a starter. Whereas if you put Taiwan Walker in the bullpen, he's going to be a walking dumpster fire. But thankfully, he's done well so far as well. Um, so we'll see what happens with the Phillies here. But um, he's that's a good start. And thanks for Jason Bean for bringing that to light tonight because I probably would have passed right on by it and been talking about the Masters. But yeah, so I got to get Jason Beam on here. Once we really start getting with the interviews and stuff and all the goofy things I plan on doing, I would love to have him on. Even if I record it ahead of time, if he hears this, hears or see this, um, you know, once I got to figure a couple of things out with the programs because I'm going to be switching programs probably next month as well. So some of these graphics are going to be different on the bottom of the screen and stuff like that. But you'll see when we get to that. So now part of the reason why I was late tonight. Was because since it is Masters weekend, and I pretend to be a master debater, I know I have it somewhere. And I know it's here. I just don't know where. I have the Masters theme music. And I don't want to play it off of YouTube. I have my own MP3 of it. I forget how I got it. I tried everything last night, even to download it after the show, and even maybe Tuesday night. I don't know, but for whatever reason, the one external drive that I have, because I have two of them. One's hooked up to this computer that I'm using to stream out to you guys. And by the way, welcome in. If I haven't said so after I started the show. For some reason, I can't find this one external drive. Now, here's the thing. This apartment's about 550, 600 square feet. So it's here. I just don't remember where I put it. And it's not that important of an external drive because it's only 2 terabytes. And, the one I have hooked up to this one's 8. So, but I don't know where I put it. And since it's the last show of the weekend, or of the week before we get to Also Eligible on Saturday, I wanted to play that at the beginning of the show. And maybe instead of starting with the Ranger Suarez news that I got from Jason Bean, I would lead with some news from down in Augusta. But I have no clue where that external is. And I guarantee you, sometime between 11 and 2 or 3, whenever I finally go to bed, I guarantee you, as soon as I go to bed, I'm going to find that damn thing. And that file is going to be on there. Because I checked both thumb drives I have. that didn't have it. I checked one, two. I didn't check that computer. Oops, but I don't think it has it on there anyway. But you know, I have it here, but I don't know where it is. Whatever. So we didn't get to play the Master's theme. I didn't get to say hello, friends. I didn't get to do any of that. So unfortunately, I have to give myself one of those because I am a dope. I have to do it. So it is what it is. So, but anyways, I did say on Facebook last night before I went to bed. I might even said it on X, but I definitely said it on. I definitely said it on Facebook last night before I went to bed. Um, I said, reminder, if you, oh, I got it from Annie Agar. That's what it was. Okay, so I know where I got the source of it from. I said last night, remember, if you put $100 to win on Rory McIlroy, you'll be out $100. So, uh, but it kind of like um, the picture that I shared every year around the Indy 500. And I had perfect timing with looking at my phone when the Indy 500 finished. And there used to be an IndyCar driver. His name was Will Power. And he finished second to, I believe it was Helio Castroneves. And I shared the picture every year. And I said, moral of the story, Will Power, well, it says Helio Castroneves was with Will Power finished the second. I said, moral of the story, willpower will only get you so far. And of course, he finally wins it and uh, makes that picture worthless. Um, but I wanted to play the song and all that. But Scotty Scheffler showed he was ready for the tournament today. Shot a bogey-free round of 68. He's near the top of the leaderboard after the first round today at the Masters. He had 3 birdies on the first 9 holes, including a 62-foot putt on the par 3 fourth. He had a 42-foot birdie on the 16th to grab a share of the early lead with Corey Connors, Justin Rose. Justin Rose since carded a 65 today, taking the lead. A round that included 8 birdie. Rose's round was 8 birdies and a bogey. Scheffler's the 4th defending Masters winner to open the next year's tournament with a bogey-free round in the past 30 years. So, that's a rare thing they did today. Sunshine and a little wind. The morning wave of players enjoyed pristine scoring conditions, other than the Augusta greens, which were fast and firm, even though there was more than an inch of rain that fell on Monday. So he's attempting to join Jack Nicklaus as the only golfers to win the Masters 3 times in a 4-year span. So that's how rarefied this air is that Scotty Scheffler is in right now, being the number 1 golfer and everything else. He's trying to become only the 4th golfer to win a green jacket in back-to-back years, joining Nicklaus, who did it in 65 and 66, Nick Faldo in 89 and 90, and Tiger Woods in 01 and 02. So, really going for some rarefied air here this weekend at the Masters. And by the way, hello, friends. So he has 4 straight opening rounds in the 60s in the Masters. Jack has that record with 5 from 72 to 76. So, he's doing Scotty Scheffler things, and hopefully he doesn't get arrested on his way to Augusta National like he did at the PGA, or was it the PGA or the U.S. Open last year? But either way, I still think he pulled the "Don't you know who I am" card when the cop arrested him and stuff like that. But that's just me. Um, so he said he feels as prepared for the tournament as he has all season long. He missed the first month after cutting his hand in a cooking accident on Christmas, which limited his ability to practice. And if you saw what he had at the if you saw what he had at the Champions Center, uh, he also had ravioli there. I mean, ravioli something or other, because he had all kinds of things there. So I think part of it was a nod to, as a joke to, when he cut his hand opening a can of ravioli or whatever. Um, but he's in contention after day one, and hopefully, for those that play chalk in the tournament, he's in contention right now. Rory had a meh day. He ended up even par. Had some trouble on the back nine. Um, Now, one guy in the group that did have trouble, because he was an amateur playing with the world number one and also the defending champion, Jose Luis Ballester um, had some made some fans at the Masters, but for a different reason. So he was in a group with Scott Scheffler and Justin Thomas. So, um, so he made quite an impression on the fans in his first Masters appearance. So the 21-year-old who plays for Arizona State University, so he's an amateur, um, he needed he was in need of a bathroom break and decided, when you gotta go, you gotta go. So he said he forgot there were bathrooms just to the left of the tee box on the 13th hole. So he ran down to a tributary to Rays Creek and relieved himself while playing partner Justin Thomas was still on the 12th green. And if I was prepared, and I think I have the sound drop too on one of my computers, whatever, excuse me while I whip this out. So he said after the round, I'm like, I really need to pee. Didn't really know where to go, and since JT had an issue on the green, I'm like, I'm just going to sneak here in the river, and probably will not see me that much. Except they did see that much, leading to a roar from the patrons. But I mean, I'm guessing he's hung like a horse. I don't know, but Ballister said they clapped for me, but he didn't wash his hands probably. But probably one of the claps I really got. Probably one of the claps I really got today, real loud. So it was kind of funny. Um, so he was paired with Scotty Scheffler and Justin Thomas. He made waves by wearing an Arizona State cap featuring the word Sun Devils upside down, which is the trend now in sports, or actually with sportswear and stuff like that. And let me see if I can find that picture here. Um, okay, so this isn't a great picture, but it will have to do. Let me see if I can zoom this. Okay, good. So as you can see here, this is the fashion trend with a lot of sports gear. I've seen it with a couple of different teams here. Sun Devils is backwards and upside down. It's just the way, just a fashion trend that they've started here. It helps if I show the screen here. So for whatever reason, you know, I mean, he probably wears that all the time during the NCAA matches at Arizona State, but fans on social media said it was uncouth at an event like the Masters. I think it's uncouth at any event, if you ask me. I mean, I think it's uncouth even walking down the street, but that's just me. Um, but then again, I'm the type of guy that likes to have um, the Phillies hat, and like I have on the side here, I have um, my City of Brotherly Love hat that I got to wear with some of my Friday Night Lights stuff. Like I got that one T-shirt I have. That's what I use that for. And I got this, which to replace a gray hat that I had Phillies wise, because I had a gray hat with a P on it, the Phillies P on there, not P as in, but um, so I got a gray hat here, and what I did was I got the Fanatic on there because the Phillies do during batting practice, they have the blue and red Phillies cap with the Fanatic on it. It's the second straight year that they have this. So I saw this on Fanatics, and when I started playing online on Fanatics, I was using uh, points and stuff like that. And Fanatics was like, "Oh Jesus Christ, another order from this guy," because of the fact that he had the fact that Eagles won the NFC Championship, they won the Super Bowl. Then I saw, oh, I like this Phillies hat, so I went and got that too. So, um, so, so all kinds of, I got a lot of stuff in there. I got points. Then I used the points on other things and all that. So, but the guy had to use the potty. He struggled with a 76, going four over on the first nine with a birdie, two bogeys, and a triple bogey. Uh, he said he was able to chat with Scheffler a little bit, calling it a VIP pass to play with the two stars. He said he tried to get loose, warming up, tried to be myself, listen to music, and stay focused. I was not intimidated. Um, Now, he regretted how it started, but he had no regrets on what got him the most attention this day and said he was unconcerned. Then he blew back from his bathroom break. It was not embarrassing at all to me. If I had to do it again, I would. If I had to do it, if I had to do it again, I would do it again. Now, me personally, I probably, or maybe I wonder if Adam Sandler would do this in Happy Gilmore 2. He has to take a leak, and he does uh, an homage to Billy Madison, I think it is. Where peeing your pants is the coolest. That scene. He goes, you know, kid pees himself and goes, well, guess what? Let me get the water fountain here. Gets water all over his groin area, and he says, peeing your pants is the coolest. And the kids think he's cool because he's he's some real old fart that's in the third grade or whatever grade he was in at the time, and uh, you know it is what it is. So, but but I wonder if Adam Sandler's going to give him a call now. Hey, peeing your pants is the coolest. But that's what happened just in that one group. Now, we did have a bit of history today, but I don't know if you want to call it history or not. But Fred Couples, who is 65 years old, where did the time go? But he continually sees people in his groups out driving by 20, 30, 40, 50, even more than that. Yards, that is. But that doesn't deter him from showing up and giving the course his best shot. And now, 2 years ago, he was the oldest player to ever make the cut at the Masters, and he might be setting a record this weekend or tomorrow because he shot a 1 under par 71 today. This is his 40th appearance in the Masters. became the second oldest player to shoot under par in any Masters round. Um, Couple said, "Today is a hell of a round. I'm exhausted. I can play golf. I can play around here. If the weather is like it is and not hard, I can, as long as I can don't do crazy things. I can shoot 73 or 4 or 5. That's not embarrassing myself at all." I think obviously he knows he's not going to shoot a 65 like Justin Rose did. But, if he's consistent with 71, 72, 73, or maybe 70 or 69, maybe he gets uh, not only just a spot to play on the weekend, maybe get to see his name further up on the leaderboard. Who knows? But um, so Couples is only 1 month younger than what Tom Watson was when he shot 71 in 2015. Relied Wednesday on his course familiarity along with the right combination of steadiness and creativity plus a bit of luck. I mean, think about it. He's 65 years old. He's in his 40th Masters. I think he knows how the course is. Does Couples get an AARP discount? Not only does he get an AARP discount, I think I can't think of a good joke, but whatever. But um, I can't think of anything good. I think when he finishes the round this year, I think he's going to get a rocking chair. I mean, that wasn't the joke I was going for, but we'll go for it. So off the tee, Couples was nearly automatic, hitting 12 of 14 fairways. When you average just 275 off the tee, the approach shots are a real challenge as Couples is often hitting 2, 3, or even maybe 4 more clubs than his peers. He hit only 7 of 18 greens in regulation during Thursday's round. When he missed the number one green long to the left, Couples was faced with a tough up and down from the short grass. Instead of chipping, he grabbed his putter and proceeded to make a 48-foot birdie putt. He got a birdie on 9 where he was 7 feet from the hole. On the 14th, he was 186 yards down and proceeded to hit a 6 hybrid that landed short of the green and rolled straight up into the cup for an eagle. He didn't see it go into the hole, but he celebrated once he heard the roar, kissing his club for good measure. He said that last year he wasn't truly healthy. He didn't have the right clubs in the bag to play as well, which is to play what is now a much longer Augusta National. It's 7,555 yards. And the thing is, I've said this a couple of times, and some people agree with me, and some people act like I don't know what I'm talking about. And, that's not the first time somebody will say that today. But, sometimes I say, well, instead of making the course longer, because you're going to get to a point where you can't extend these holes out anymore because you're already at the property lines. But, can you make the fairways tighter? Can you put in another bunker or two or something like that? You know what I mean? So, but that's just me as an amateur saying that stuff. But last year he had a bunch of cortisone shots, and it was the most pain he's ever been. If I come here and I can swing a club, I play. It wasn't all if I just couldn't hit it far enough or not hit it well enough. He's got a new setup this year, which includes a lot of head covers, as he has added 4 rescue hybrids. His first iron in his bag is a 7-iron. He said he has a set of clubs he feels he can hit around the course. He said that if I shoot 70 or 71 tomorrow, the goal for me is to make the cut. Tomorrow may be different, maybe different shots, but it was fun. It was a very fun day. So, I don't know where he sits in terms of when he goes out tomorrow. Let me see. Matter of fact, I can find out here. Wait a second. Round 1 is completed. Fred Couples goes out at 12:11 tomorrow. He tees off on the first hole at 12:11. So so you will be able to watch that on Paramount Plus. I think ESPN Plus maybe, but definitely Paramount Plus from 12 to 2 if you wanted to, and or 12 to 3. Then ESPN takes over coverage at 3 o'clock, and they're replaying coverage right now. So, but yeah, they do have a this is one of the best weekends out of the year, and before Jim Nantz retired as a basketball announcer, you had to be jealous of what he had, the week that he had, because in a matter of 10 days, he would call the Final Four and then head to Augusta for the Masters. Now, that's a dream job, if you ask me, going from the Final Four to a tradition unlike any other, the Masters. But, yeah, I mean, but you do have a lot of fun with that. So, but, we'll see what happens with all that. And, I didn't put any bets in or anything. But, I'm watching as a fan. So we'll see what happens with all this here. So, but that's what I really wanted to talk about at the beginning of the show. But, Jason Beam hit me up with the Ranger Suarez news because, since he's the track announcer at Tampa Bay Downs this time of year, he does have the opportunity to go into minor league games. I think he said in his podcast he does live in Clearwater. So, right there you have the Tampa Bay Yankees, even though it's more Tampa Bay Rays now. A typical year. I mean, this isn't a typical year, but, he'd have a choice between the Dunedin Blue Jays, Clearwater Phillies, Tampa Tarpons. I mean, if you wanted to go a little bit farther out, he could. But because I listened to his podcast, even though I'm like months behind on it. But since we're getting back into baseball here, because I was going to start with golf, go to baseball, and then go with the soccer news here. Yes, I'm going to be talking a little soccer, but it's not anything. It's not X's and O's or anything like that. It's just like different things are popping up here. Marlins minor league and Marion Boyd did something. Okay. He did something that has not been done. He's in the minor leagues. He's at High A Beloit in the Midwest League. But he did something that has not been done in the major leagues since at least 1901 and may not have ever been done in Major League Baseball. And through Major League Baseball research, it hasn't been done since at least 2005. And it may be longer than that. Who knows? Because, I think you get to a point where the record keeping isn't as good. So, you're trying to look for individual records and stuff like that. And then you got to look at, well, save yourself some time and say, well, what's the team record for stolen bases in a game? Oh, it's 5. Well, don't have to look at this team's stats, stuff like that. But Marion Boyd became the first minor league players in at least 20 years And here's where it gets a little goofy, and the full moon's coming. If it hasn't already, I forget. I looked it up because people were really nasty the last couple of days at work. Um, he's the first minor leaguer in at least 20 years to steal 6 bases in a game without getting a base hit. That's right. 6 stolen bases, no hits. He pulled it off for the High A Beloit team when they played Cedar Rapids in a Midwest League game. I forget what the nickname is for Beloit and Cedar Rapids. I think Cedar Rapids the Colonels. Actually, I can tell you what Beloit's nickname is. I could do that because I'm smart. SMRT smart. Um, because I have Ala Ballpark Baseball loaded onto this computer. So it's the only reason why I know. Midwest League. Beloit is the Sky Carp. They are a high A affiliate of the Miami Marlins. So there you go. There's your. Yeah, Mike says that's amazing. It is. And, wait till you hear some of the stuff about this here. So he was batting ninth in the lineup, and sometimes that 9 hole is just as important as that 1 hole, because I said this to a guy who I went to high school with. His name's Anthony Sanfilippo. Because one question I asked him was, since you're the guy who covers baseball for the Phillies for whatever site it is now, I said, tell me I'm wrong, and, tell me I'm wrong with this statement, because, I respect your opinion because all the jobs that you do and everything like that. I said, after the first at bat or the first inning, does it really matter what the lineup is? And he said, no, it doesn't really matter. Of course, the first inning matters, but, so I was like, good, because, I've been saying that for a while now, because I can understand why, in a way, you want Kyle Schwarber at the 1 hole, but you also want him in the 4 because he hits home runs. So you're like, eh. So, so he's hitting in the 9 hole. And the one thing with me, unless you have a speed guy like Garrett Stubbs, who's in AAA right now, and even JT Realmuto still has wheels at 33, 34 years old, whatever age he is. Unless you have a catcher that has speed, I don't want the catcher in the 9 hole, because guess what? You get a guy like this who may be hitting the 1 hole, you're going to be clogging the bases with some slow fuck, because, he's had 18 knee injuries because he's been squatting for however many years, even before he got to minor league baseball. Squatting 200 times a game at least, that's not good for your knees. So he batted ninth and played center field. Beloit won 10-0. He reached on a fielder's choice, a walk, and a hit by pitch. Each of those plate appearances, he stole second and third each time. So I don't know if he's a type of guy that, as soon as he gets on base, fuck your signals, I'm going. I don't know if he's like that or not. But he walked again with none out in the 9th inning, but he couldn't steal any more bases because a runner was in front of him, probably some slow catcher. But having him as the 9-hole hitter, it shows that, sometimes that 9 hole is just important as that one hole guy, because you get a 9 hole hitter with a walk, and let's say you have a left-handed pitcher who keeps you from stealing second base. Well, if you have the one guy who's also a speed demon, he walks or gets on base somehow, and you have first and second, you can double steal and get both guys in scoring position. So, you can cause all kinds of problems. But, uh, you know, and, even though, like, even if you had Kyle Schwarber, the one hole, got a speed guy at 9, even though you don't want to give up that hole on the right side, but, you know, especially if Kyle Schwarber is real hot, they'll just say 4, you know, even though you got the meat of the order coming up. But going back to this kid, Boyd told the Associated Press on Thursday, I thought it'd be even more crazy if I got 8, meaning 8 stolen bases. I wish I could have had 2 more. It would have been really crazy then. So he knew. I mean, he didn't know it was a record, but he knew he didn't get a base hit, but he was getting on base every time, or at least I think it was every time. And then on top of that, not only is he doing that, he's stealing bases. I mean, he's doing the Ricky Henderson thing where, all right, I'll steal second, and all right, I'll steal third while I'm here as well. So Ricky Henderson in his prime. So he has 98 steals in 203 minor league games. Now, here's where it hurts a little bit, but it has helped the Phillies a little bit, because Emarian Boyd was part of the trade for Jesus Luzardo, who pitched tonight, as a matter of fact. He pitched 6 innings, 6 strikeouts, and 6 hits allowed. But they're still in a rain delay right now. I don't think that game's playing tonight. I think that game's going to get suspended, and they're not going to continue that game till the end of June, I think. The only reason why I say is I don't think they continue that here in Philadelphia. They would continue that in Atlanta. So he was an 11th round pick by the Phillies in 22. He was part of that December trade. 98 steals in 203 minor league games, with 83 and 187 games over 23 and 24 at Single A Clearwater and High A Jersey Shore, which are the Phillies affiliates in the Florida State League and Jersey Shore. Is they a South Atlantic League? I'm not pulling that up again. Fuck it. Boyd said, I just try to be better than the pitcher and catcher when I get on base and get a good enough or perfect jump. Then I use my God-given talent. So no minor leaguer since at least 2005 has 6 stolen bases without getting a hit. He also stole 6 bases in the game for Clearwater in 2023, but he had a hit in that game. So this is a rare feat that hasn't happened in Major League Baseball since 1901. I doubt even it happened in Major League Baseball. But you do have, I think what you're going to have to do is, at least with the teams that are still in existence, the 120 minor league teams over the 4 levels, you're going to have to look and see, well, what's your team record for steals in a game? Okay, our record is 5. Okay, well, guess what? We don't have to look through your records. Then you get to another team, it's like, our record's 7. Okay, now we need to see what he did in that game. Then you go through that. But that's a crazy feat that it's a crazy feat that occurred earlier this week in the Midwest League. And also, it's cold up there too, so sliding hurts. Everything hurts, especially when it's cold. But so we're starting to get to the point um, in the 4-year cycle of um, football, or soccer as we call it in the United States. Um, we're starting to talk about the World Cup, which is in the United States next year. Well, it's also in Canada and Mexico. We're sharing it, but you know. But like for example, this year you have what's called the Club World Cup, which is 32 teams from around the world that won their leagues. You know, there's all kinds of qualifications with it. Um, yeah, I was watching the news at lunchtime today because they were promoting the FIFA Club World Cup, and Jim Donovan said, "Oh, this is a new tournament." No, dumbass, it's not a new tournament; it's a new format because they only had 6 or 7 teams, so it'd just be a single elimination tournament. Um, but the World Cup will be here next year in the United States and also Canada and Mexico. But there's rumors floating around right now that the president of South American soccer ruling body, CONMEBOL, I think that's how it's pronounced, Alejandro Dominguez is his name, he made an official proposal on Thursday to expand the men's 2030 World Cup from 32 teams to 64. Now, mind you, next year it's 48 teams. Now, I don't know if this is a 1 year thing, a one tournament thing for the World Cup, or they're doing it now. But you're getting to the point now where you might as well just invite all 200 countries or however many countries that have a soccer team, or I'm sorry, a football team, a World Cup team. Have them all play. Whatever. But so now, if this is a one-time thing, then I have no problem with it. But you're getting to the point where it's, you only have about 180 countries. You have 64 teams in this. I mean, I argue about a 96 team NCAA tournament, but at least I'm saying, hey, you have 350, 360, 370 Division I schools. That figures out the 25%, which was your percentage when you went to 64 teams in 1985. But that's my argument with 96, on top of getting rid of the NIT altogether and hurting the college basketball crown tournament, which Nebraska won, which they had an amazing feat. They've never won an NCAA tournament game, but they have 2 postseason trophies with the college basketball crown and the NIT. Once again, another crazy fact there. So FIFA is aware of this proposal that was first introduced in March by a delegate from Uruguay during an online meeting of the ruling council of the World Soccer Governing Body. Dominguez said during his opening speech, "We are convinced that the centennial celebration will be unique because 100 years are celebrated only once." And part of the reason why next year's World Cup is in mostly the United States is because it is the 250th anniversary of the United States, even though FIFA could have said this about 10 years ago. But the World Cup, 2030 World Cup is already set to be the most brawling edition, with 6 host nations spread across 3 continents. Because I think that was planned because it was the 100-year anniversary. Uruguay was the original World Cup host in 1930 and is scheduled to stage 1 game. Paraguay, Argentina, Spain, Portugal, and Morocco are also co-hosts. Dominguez added, that is why we are proposing for the first time to hold this anniversary with 64 teams on 3 continents simultaneously. Expanding to 64 teams likely would guarantee all 10 South American member countries a place in a bigger tournament. Venezuela, and if you are a real soccer fan, um, eh, if you're a real soccer fan and you want to get a free beer from somebody, here's a fact here. Venezuela is the only one from South America that has never qualified for a World Cup. Dominguez said this will allow all countries to have the opportunity to live the world experience, and so nobody on the planet is left out of the party. If FIFA approves the move, it would create a tournament of 128 matches. Now, the first part of it is round robin between the different groups. You play 3 matches, and then you probably would go into a 64 team bracket. And this would be to double the number of a 64 game format, which was 32 teams, that was played between 1998 and 2022. Now, UEFA president, which is the European countries, Alexander Seferin, hope I pronounced it right, called the 64 team World Cup a bad idea. Critics of this proposal have argued it will weaken the quality of play and devalue the qualifying program in most continents. Agreed. I just think, you're going to have what they call the group of death, where you have like three or even all 4 teams in the group they'll beat the shit out of each other for 3 games or 2 games. You probably have that replicated 2, 3, 4 times, and you'll have a lot of teams that may not get in. But we do have, if it's a one-off, yeah, why not? But if you're going to have it all the time, I don't agree with it. So, um, so but if it's a one-off, but also you're doing it on 3 different continents, so because it's the 100th anniversary. So right now it's set for 48 teams. It's just a matter of what they do here, because you're going to have South America, you're going to have Africa involved, you're going to have part of Europe involved, and most of the countries are FIFA members. You basically have Greenland. Trump's not going to like that. There's one country in South America and there's one country in Africa. Well, there's a couple of little things here as well, but I'm not showing that. But anyway, so that's why they. That's what came up. It was interesting. It was worth mentioning. Whereas the college basketball, I think it's good to have 96 teams because you can get rid of that NIT tourney once and for all. But whatever. So one other thing, and you do see this. When you see the MLS and you start watching soccer from the Premier League, La Liga, whatever. You notice that the United States and MLS, well, United States and Canada, because we got to have Canadian teams in here. The United States go from towards the end of winter to late fall. Especially in Europe, they go from SJ. Hello. Um, yeah, I've been quiet. I know. We'll talk, but I gotta hop on another stream after this tonight. So I got invited to a stream, but not in that stream where that guy pissed at Augusta National. I'm not going on that stream, but um, but especially in Europe, they go from end of American summer. You weren't paying attention during when I was master debating and telling you about the masters. Jose Luis Ballester, he is a 21-year-old. He's from Spain. He plays at Ohio State. I mean, not Ohio State, Arizona State. She's already laughing. Um, he had Forrest Gump disease. He had to pay. So he was in need of a bathroom break. Justin Thomas wasn't cooperating because he had trouble in the 12th green. So he had to go potty. He didn't realize that there was a bathroom at the 13th hole, probably a porta potty. I know you're more of a golfer than I am. I mean, also with us men, we could just whip it out and go behind a tree or whatever. But he forgot there were bathrooms just to the left of the tee box at 13, tee box at 13. So he went down to the tributary at Rays Creek, which is by the 12th green area, and he relieved himself while playing partner Justin Thomas was still in the 12th green. Well, he was probably in the woods, but there's so many people there this weekend. That you can't find a spot where you don't have a million eyes on you. So he decided to whip it out and go, ah. So, and he got a roar from the patrons because he took a leak into Rays Creek. Actually, it's going to be rewatching this later tonight. And by the way, if you want to watch after the fact, you got me on YouTube, my YouTube at Joe Quills. Matter of fact, I'm going to beat SJ to this up. Oops. And then there's also this. And we are going to have a couple more commands. If not next. You want my glasses? You want my glasses? Wait, let me get rid of this. You want my glasses? I admit I haven't gone on a scale in a little while, but because the one thing is, and we'll get to this MLS story in a second as we get personal time with yours truly, and I'm sweating through my T-shirt here. Beginning of the year, our prescription Planet Redacted company changed from Express Scripts to CVS Caremark. So I didn't get my I didn't put in my order in time before the new year to get another batch of the shit that I was taking. Not Ozempic, but the other one. So I went to my doctor. I went to the doctor in March. I said, just to let you know, I can't get that prescription through the mail. Now, the thing is, he says, oh, you can just get it at at a brick and mortar, but I was like, yeah, but I'm going to Target because that's the only CVS around me, or I go the one way up here about a mile. Mike knows where that is. So I end up switching from, um, um, wait, it's coming to me. Not Jardians. Well, you know the other one I was taking. So I went from that to Ozempic, and the doctor almost didn't give me that because I was starting to sing the song "Oh Oh Oh Ozempic." So I'm now on Ozempic. So I had to switch, and there was like 2 or 3 months where I wasn't taking any of that stuff, and um, it got to the point where I was eating even more than what I was even like back before I even moved into this place. So I was really eating like a pig. So, um, but I appreciate the compliment. Um, but um, but whatever I was taking, the product name is escaping me. I had a period where I wasn't taking any of that stuff. So, but I'm on my second dose of Ozempic now. So, and it helps with the blood sugars, the A1C, all that stuff. So, um, and also, um, I also got talked into potentially doing a charity bike ride in July, and that's going to be an epic disaster. um, it's called the Dinosaur Bike Tour. We raised money for um, these. It it's a charity that raises money that they raise money for orphan kids in New Jersey. Bike tour. It's out of Brick, New Jersey. Um, but even uh, you have all these people riding bikes and stuff, and but me, I'm the evil Knievel of the group, not doing crazy stuff, but always crashing. But it's called the Dinosaur Bike Tour. We raise money so that kids can have gifts for Christmas and stuff like that. So, when we get closer to that, I'll be promoting that as well. So, um, but I think I got talked into it. But it also involves a trip to Monmouth Park. So guess what? Horse racing, Monmouth Park. Yeah, you're going to talk me into going there, and I will give back and do that stuff too. But anyway, so enough about that. Um, the MLS is looking at changing their calendar. They go from February to end of November, beginning of December, however the playoffs are. They're looking at being similar to what they do in Europe, which is about August to June. And they're not going to do it until at least 2027, so after the World Cup. Um, um, and they'll also look at possible changes to the format for the regular season and playoffs. Um, so the statement read that Major League Soccer's Board of Governors authorized a second phase of exploration into a potential move to the international soccer calendar, along with the continued evaluation of the league's regular season and playoff formats. Any potential changes would not take effect until 2027 at the earliest. The next phase will include additional consultation with key stakeholders and the development of a comprehensive transition plan. Um, Now, the U.S. has what they call winter to fall. It goes from February to October, the regular season. But the problem here with this is, and Philly's in this issue, um, Philly's in this issue, DC, New England, Minnesota, Columbus, Chicago. A lot of these teams are in northern locales, and um, there's all kinds of weather concerns for cold weather climate cities in North America. Um, Kansas City's another one. You know, you're going to have game. I mean, and the schedule's going to be even more compact with all these other tournaments that they do. Um, so I don't know how they're going to how it's going to work, but it does. But it would align transfer windows and everything like that. So like for example, the summer transfer window is like the middle of the season for MLS. So everything would align perfectly with the European leagues, but it's you get into this issue and then like especially during the summer as well, you have a lot of international tournaments, so you're playing like your third string guys because your number one goalie has to play for Jamaica like the Unions does. Blake, forget his first name, but but that's an interesting thing. It was worth mentioning here because I try to bring some different things going on here. So now, from what I'm seeing here, it looks like the Phillies are still in a rain delay. Um, I think we're right around the halfway. I think we're about an hour and a half with the rain delay. So, be interesting to see if they call this game or not. Because if they call the game, like I said earlier tonight, if they call the game off, it's a suspended game because it's a tie game right now, 1-1. And by the way, thank you, Kyle Schwarber, for doing that. Um, but if you do have now the old rules back in the 80s, and yes, I'm showing my age, back in the 80s and 90s, this would be an official game. The game would be a tie, and you'd have to start the game over the next time you go to Atlanta, and you'd be essentially playing the 163rd game, where it would only say 162 in the standings, but in the back of your mind, oh yeah, we had that tie early on. But the way that they do baseball now, you have 162 games, but there was that one game with the Mets when um, the guy with the neck tattoos for the Yankees, Stroman, Marcus Stroman, blasted Major League Baseball and blasted the Mets and everybody else by starting that game. And he got about 6 pitches in. They called the game off eventually because they weren't going to get the game in. They tried to get the game in. The rain probably came sooner than they expected. But even that, with the rules what they are now, as long as you start the game and it's not official, that becomes suspended too. Whereas in this situation, it used to be, okay, this game ends in a tie. We start over with the new game when the Phillies come back to Atlanta in June. Now, with the way this is set up, you would and here's the thing, because the Braves play in Philadelphia next month, I believe. Yeah, they play over Memorial Day. Uh, uh, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. 27th, 28th, 29th of May. Now, I believe the game has to be played in Atlanta because it started in Atlanta. Now, if it was a game that was suspended with games in Philly, this is where we get into these crazy rules. But I believe that they would not pick that up until June 29th or June 27th when the Phillies make their next trip down to Atlanta. So I think they're going to try to do whatever they can to get this game in. Probably whoever's pitching for the Phillies tomorrow is already en route to St. Louis, where the Phillies played the Cardinals this weekend. But just some quirks that come up from time to time. I mean, we had that quirk about the guy who had six stolen bases but didn't have a base hit tonight. Um, we had other things here. You know what? Let me show SJ something here because um, no, I took it down. Damn it. Set the bus Northeast Philly. All right, so this happened over the weekend, SJ, and I don't know if you saw this or not. I don't know if you watch my stuff after the fact or anything like that, but I have to share this. I shared this on Monday night, and Mike already knew about this because watching local news, it's not that hard to do. Um, and she does, and I feel sorry that she watches my shit after the fact. So I'm not sure if you saw this, but this happened. I think this was last Friday. And I even pinpointed the bus because of the fact that I know exactly where this was because my doctor. I haven't gotten there yet, SJ. I haven't gotten there. I'm bringing it up here. And unfortunately, that's what she said as well. So this is what happened last Friday. And I even pointed out everything about this little area because of the fact that my doctor's office is like a block away from Roosevelt Boulevard. So, of course, they go from, whoops. So they go about they finished up the story with the plane crash. They were updating on that. So here is the, yeah, I know, I can't help it. Here's what happened last Friday. And yes, SJ, this did happen last week. I cannot make this shit up if I tried.
A frightening scene along Roosevelt Boulevard late this afternoon. A SEPTA bus pushing an SUV. It happened on the boulevard near Sanger Street about 4 o'clock. SEPTA officials say the bus made contact with the vehicle that had two people inside and pushed it down the street through traffic. We're still trying to get information on why and how it happened. SEPTA police are still investigating. The occupants in the SUV and 5 people on the bus suffered minor injuries.
Well, I don't know what exactly happened, but I got to tell you that the union that represents these SEPTA bus drivers, they are, to put it nicely, assholes. They're criminals. They've given me problems over the years. Um, Now, that area of Roosevelt Boulevard, there is a lot of these side streets that dead end into the boulevard because I think you've seen and Mike had to pee. That weird sound of the screeching tires will make you pee. Um, it's a 12-lane highway. You got 6 lanes north and 2 3-lane segments, and you got 6 lanes going the opposite direction, 2 3-lane segments. So I think what happened was somebody probably said, "Oh, I'll get by this bus." Mike, she said hi. Um, I think the bus came. The SUV tried to go by. 12. Huh? But I think that this. Now I'm gonna have to show Roosevelt Boulevard here. Hold on. All right, so 1 second, SJ. Oops. There's the boulevard. Over here. So here's Roosevelt Boulevard. You know, I just walked down the street here. There's my Wawa. And there you go. You have 12 lanes here. You got 4 groups of 3. You got 3 lanes on this outer lane, 3 on the inner lane. They're going southbound towards Center City. Well, not really towards Center City, but you get the idea, Mike. And then you have these 6 lanes here, 3 in the inner lane that are going northbound toward Bucks County, and 3 here, which are the outer lanes. So, oops, 1 second. I'm a dumbass. Let me give myself one of those. There you go, SJ. Now you can see the road. You got 6 lanes here going south. You got 3 lanes here. You got a little island there, and you got 3 in the inner lane here. In this intersection here near me, this actually has a turn lane here, so you can go onto Ryan Avenue there. Then you got 6 lanes here going northbound here. And they also have these areas where you can go from the outer lane to the inner lane. And there's one over here because this goes underneath. So, and then there's a turn lane there. So for the most part, you just worry about the 3 lanes that you're on. But yeah, 12 lanes. And it does take forever to cross that street there. But there's my Wawa. There's my Wawa. So Roosevelt Boulevard, which is Route 1, US 1. Once you get inside the city limits of Philadelphia, it goes to 12 lanes between the Philadelphia Bucks County line all the way to almost Broad Street. So probably good 10 miles of that. So, but if you ever had to come down here, I would have you avoid that as much as possible. But, you know, so let me just check one thing here. Okay. So just want to let you guys know as well. We are back to regular programming on Saturday because of the fact that we had a special Tuesday morning edition of Also Eligible. We also started an hour later than I planned because, you know, I wasn't stepping on Defoe's toes, Jeff DeForest. I forgot that he had a show at 10 o'clock, and, you know, I knew I wasn't going to get anybody. So I went 11 o'clock on Tuesday. We did the races from Keeneland because they had moved their Saturday races to Tuesday. And I did give you guys a winner. But we're back this Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern. And once again, that's where you can go to check out my show. And I will definitely be looking at Keeneland. They have 2 big races. I haven't determined the second track yet, which really sucks because I don't know what to do. Or I may just do I just may do a recap of the road to the Kentucky Derby because the horses that are in the Lexington on Saturday, they are not going to get into the Derby. Now, they may end up going to the Preakness, which is 2 weeks afterwards on May 17th, I believe. Yeah. So you may be looking at some horses that may end up in the Preakness, but in terms of the Kentucky Derby, unless like a bunch of horses decide no, we're not running, these horses are running uh, for the for the $400,000 purse that these owners run their horses for and stuff like that. But in terms of what they're doing for um, but what they're doing, they're not going to have the points to get into the Derby. So, but I think I'm leaning towards a recap of the races. So we may do that. It just means I got a shit ton of work tomorrow on top of the two races I'll be looking at from Keeneland, and or maybe I just half-ass that thing there. But either way, we will be looking at at least two races from Keeneland. I just should get the um, stuff on the YouTube page so that they know exactly what it is, um, and AJ can SEO the shit out of the YouTube stuff. So, but I mean, because his YouTube, I couldn't give a rat's ass about mine, but but that'll be it for this show. And I do appreciate everybody coming in. SJ, Mike, Brendan was in here. Everybody who's watching on X and YouTube, even those are going to be watching after the fact because um, I stream. I stream with a different purpose, and a lot of people I stream more for after the fact and actually live. But I appreciate everybody who watches live as well. So, but check me out Wednesday or no. Check me out Saturday morning at 10 a.m. And if you're unavailable to watch that show on the Bleacher Brothers platforms, you can catch me here Monday night, 9 o'clock. Mike will be in studio, unless there's some crazy storm or whatever, but he'll be here and we'll be getting ourselves into trouble, as we always do. And hope you enjoy me that. I hope you enjoy the show then at Monday night as well. And we'll do it live. And wait. I forgot I have. Hey, my audio thing ain't working. Oh, wait, here it is. What are we going to do? Fucking thing. It's going to trigger in like 10 seconds.
Do it live!
There we go. I didn't hit the button hard enough.
Do it live! Do it live! Oh my, oh my. Who the hell cares? Who the fuck is that guy?
All right. So that's it for now. I'm having way too much fun now. And yeah, we'll do it live. That's what Mike said.
Do it live! Do it live!
All right. So that's it for now. I do appreciate each and every one of you who are joining me here tonight. We're back tomorrow. I'm back Saturday. I give up. I'll see you guys in the winter circle. Good night, everybody.